This is Jackie, and I'm here with Garrett of Silent Planet. We're here in Virginia Beach Warped Tour. How you doing so far today?
Great. It's very moist here.
Oh, I hate that word, but that's a really accurate word for Virginia Beach.
Why does everyone hate the word moist?
Keep saying it gets better.
Yeah, right? It's so humid here. We're from California, so those things are things that we say. I think if you're from here, you would just say it's the summer, you know.
You're like, it's gross, it's summer, I'm over it.
Yep.
So we last talked last year at Warped Tour. What has gone on for Silent Planet since then? You've been a part of a bunch of great tours.
Yeah, we've been privileged enough to go out with, I guess since last Warped, August Burns Red, do a farewell tour with For Today, let's see, what else have we done? We did a headliner. We did our first headlining tour around the U.S. That was really fun. Played in Lynchburg, Virginia on that one. We went to Europe with 100th and Landscapes. And yeah, now we're ready to sweat it out on Warped Tour. Or I guess we're almost halfway done. Weird. Yeah.
Yeah, about getting there, pretty close.
So
Close to turnaround.
There's 39 days of Warp now. There was 41, 2 were canceled.
Yeah.
So I think there's 39. Yeah, cool.
So what did you guys do on those days off, those unscheduled days off?
Some of them we played shows. We played like a day. They canceled the Wilmington, North Carolina date, so we played a show in at the Motor Co. in Durham, North Carolina. And a lot of driving, getting free food. We get free food like 3 times a day if we're not on Warped Tour where they feed you. We're really good at getting free food, free mini golf, free laser tag, free go-karts. We have a guy with us who has a spiritual gift of getting things for free. And so he does that, and then we do the free things. So it kind of designates our day. Like, we're either driving, or we're just making stops at, random go-kart places or, golf ranges off the freeway and doing things for free because we don't have money. So it's really fun, yeah.
Sounds like a great friend to have.
Yes.
Especially on Warped Tour where things can get kind of repetitive and redundant, and a nice way to break things up, I bet.
We've been friends since high school, and he's always kept my life interesting.
Nice. Speaking of interesting, what's the inspiration behind your video for Understanding Love is Loss?
Yeah, so lyrically, the song explores depression. The first 4 lines are about 4 different authors and how they took their own lives. 4 of my favorite authors being Virginia Woolf, Sylvia Plath, Ernest Hemingway, and David Foster Wallace. The song kind of explores depression using this kind of mud pit as a metaphor for this thing that someone's trying to get out of, but they can't. And even when they do think they're out of it, it's still covering them. And our friend Kevin made a lot of beautiful shots. We spent 3 days shooting it in very, very rural, no cell reception Georgia, and it was a really special time. I think for us as a band, and working with Kevin, who's basically our visual member of our band at this point. So yeah, it was really fun.
And there's hotline information at the end of that video. Why was that important to include?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have honestly come to our music expecting a message. And so with such a kind of a dark video and a song about depression that ends on an ambiguously sad level, I just kind of made sense to give someone a resource, because you never know, even if just one person is watching that video and is considering suicide, if they call that number, then it was worth it. It was worth it. So it's just trying to be constructive. I think a lot of what we do as musicians, especially the more, I guess, the younger, more liberal musicians, there's a lot of deconstruction, and so I just wanting to have something constructive too, So.
And your experience previously as a counselor definitely has influenced your music as well.
You did your homework, didn't you?
Well, I remember from last time too.
No, it does, and I guess it's. I understand. I think if there's anything that I take with me from being a therapist is that you don't usually know the reality of what people are living in, and I don't mean to sound super negative, but even if they're your friends or family, you probably don't know the reality that they're living in most of the time. Most of us aren't very good at being annoying or persistent enough to find out what people are going through. And so, I write that, not for the, someone who hasn't left their bedroom in 3 months and is considering depression, but sometimes, a youth pastor who leads a youth group and everyone's like, oh, that, good old Steve is good at everything and he's always fine. And like maybe he's like the least fine and he doesn't have an outlet to talk about it, So yeah.
And you never know that one thing that could be the tipping point to bring someone back to something positive. You never know what that is. It's not always something big and monumental. It could just be listening to a song or watching a video.
It could, yeah. It's remarkable how music can sometimes be that tipping point, towards something better. And it's anytime anyone's ever said, "Oh, your music has saved my life" or whatever, I try to remind them that like maybe it was part of it, or maybe it was like the soundtrack, but there's so many better things. There's the love of God, there's the love of your family, there's therapy, there's resources, there's your friends, and those are the things that are going to consistently save your life. And so don't rely on a song to do that. And it's weird because I feel like kind of like people just think I'll say thank you, but I get all like serious and dad like, but because the truth is sometimes music is not enough, and we need people who can dialogue with us, or we need to know our creator. And so I try to remind people that one day you will not care about sound, but you'll totally be like, wow, I can't believe I used to listen to that crap. And that's okay. That's fine. Like I can live with not being the center of your life. It's okay. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm that narcissistic, but I can't live thinking that I can't live thinking that somebody is going to expect Silent Planet to be their primary resource, because that's not safe or healthy.
Yeah, a song is not necessarily. I don't think a song has the ability to be a solution, but it certainly has the ability to be an impetus.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
always good. Tell me about your shirt line for Heal Us.
Yeah. Gosh. It was like 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I saw a shirt that said like no room in our music scene, and it listed some of those things, and some other things like fascism and stuff. And I was like, what? I mean, it's cool that like these people are like making such a clear stand and kicking a list, but I I don't know. I've never been much of like a no room for it, or like get out of my music scene. Probably because I'm not very tough, and I'm not planning on like I'm not planning on punching anyone who's homophobic. It's just not really like my interest, and I don't think that would stop someone from being homophobic. So I think that I thought about the things that are salient to me, changed a few things, added war, because I think that war is more than the actual act of people shooting guns in the Middle East. I think it's a way of seeing violence, and a way of looking the other way, and a way of how we vote. And so anyways, so kind of listed these things that I see, which are these homophobia, sexism, racism, addiction, and war, I think. I think addiction's another thing I didn't see on that list, but that I see so prevalent in so many lives. I meet so many young people recently addicted to heroin. I think it's black tar heroin from Mexico. It's very dangerous stuff, drug that's getting around, and addiction to a lot of things, addiction to sex, addiction to alcohol. And so anyways, I just kind of listed these things, and I decided to say heal us, because I think until we like look at ourselves and how we actually might be part of perpetuating the problem, it's hard to work forward. You know what I mean? And so I think looking at the potential homophobia or sexism or racism in my own life is, for me, the first step,
And so the T-shirt line has been able to help several different groups. What are some of the groups that you've worked with?
Yeah, so on the Warped Tour, we decided every week to have a different partner, basically. It was going to be every day, then I realized I'll run out of groups and it'll be confusing, and I'll be like, wait, which day was... So I changed it to every week. So the first week was Heart Support. They do great work with mental health advocacy, just kind of creating a support community online. Awesome group. The second group was actually with War on Women, who's right over there, was Safer Scenes. Funny, once we did that, they were on the news. A bunch of stuff started popping up. It was funny because that was after we'd already decided to partner with them, but I was also, proud of them for standing up for what they believe in, and for saying like, hey, free speech is real and you can say what you want, but there's also repercussions, and people are we're gonna speak back, and so I'm proud of them, and my good friend Autumn is a big part of Safer Scenes, so she told me about their work. So second week they were our partner, and our current third week partner is Music Saves Lives, who is getting primarily, my understanding is getting like blood donations and getting people in the music scene to help that way, which is a huge need. And so the goal is to kind of like be creative. Do you have any nonprofit? Do you know of any nonprofits on Warped Tour who I didn't mention who you think could use that money?
Hope for the Day.
Hope for the Day. Cool. Okay.
I always, one of the websites that I work with is Inthekeyofchange, and we merge music with the social causes and charities that bands support. Love Hope for the Day. I always sort of go around and interview a bunch of the different organizations for the kids that can't get to Warped Tour, that don't get to. But yeah, I would definitely recommend them.
I'll keep them in mind. I saw a Voice for the Innocent. I've seen a lot of environmental groups too. I thought that'd be cool. You know, we've never, honestly, as a band, really advocated much environmental stuff, and I feel like it now more than ever is a good time to start. There's a group called like We Are the Oceans. I was going to check them out. A lot of what I do too is I try to do as best as I can to kind of audit how they do finances. You know what I mean? Just to make sure that the money goes where it should. Normally, if we ever partner with a big nonprofit, I like super audit them. It's hard to audit these smaller groups because they're not on like Charity Navigator because they're smaller. And I understand that too. You know, just in the same way it's harder to audit how Silent Planet spends our money than it is Microsoft. So I get it. You know. But yeah, so I just kind of look at a lot of it too. I kind of look at their financial condition and see like, do you have any government support already? Do you not? Because like I know Save for Scenes had no money. Like their tent was this raggedy thing falling apart. So like that was very clear. Like yes, you know, and we love their work too. But also like you see the clear need. And as a small band, who only recently can we go on a tour and know like we'll probably make some money. Not a lot, but enough to pay yourself on bills, rent, maybe whatever. And so I understand that these people are coming out on Warped Tour, sweating it out for 7.5 weeks, with very unlikely they'll see anything out of it. And so especially those groups who like no one's like a salary or anything, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, you know. So.
And also on top of all the other hats you wear at Warped Tour, you're also doing a TEI class. How did you? I said, how did you choose your subject area?
This is like the best interview I've had in a while, by the way. Yeah, you're good at your job. Yeah, you know, it's the most interesting thing because TI hit me up and they said, "Hey, do you want to do a workshop?" And I figured that they already had something in mind. You know what I mean? And they're like, "You could do anything." I was like, "What about drums?" They're like, "You could do drums." I'm like, "But I'm not a drummer." It's so I thought about it, and I think the only thing that I'm like really passionate about. And that I feel confident that I might have some insight into is creative writing. And specifically my passion is creative writing about things that happen in this world. Like stuff that I like writing that's like creative and weird and out there, but also like challenges problems in our society and around the world. So I called it Writing Against the Machine. And before showing up, people are recommended to listen to Rage Against the Machine, Bob Dylan, Immortal Technique, just different people I feel like have done a great job of writing against the machine. As well as a bunch of authors who I think are just great writers, like Shane Claiborne, Flannery O'Connor. If you got time, get into some Dostoevsky. But and so this is kind of these lists of things that I'm passionate about. And then we just talk about, every day we talk about incarnation, the idea of being integrated as a writer and finding the things. For me, it was psychology and English and philosophy and social justice and metal, Silent Planet, you know. And so for every person that looks different, that integration. And then identifying the machine, identifying the things that piss you off and how to write with a visceral reaction. We talk about narrative making. We talk a lot about apocalypse and about ideas that change, ideas that once you come into contact with it, you're forever changed, and how to find those apocalyptic moments. And yeah, so it's been really fun, just a 40-minute workshop, and it's great because like I'm positive that I'm the least attended TEI workshop, and I'm not saying this for sympathy, like to sign up. I say this because like I'm always sitting there, and the dude from Blackfield Brides walks up, and there's like 80 people, and they're all like, "He's so hot," and they're just like so stoked. And I don't know what he's teaching. It might be great. I have no idea. I just know that he's very good looking, and people are all there for his thing. And I'm always sitting there like, it's always either like 1 or 2 or 3 people, never more, right? And so we're sitting there, and we have our little notepads, and we're like, you know, like sharing writing. I had this 19-year-old guy show up at a workshop. He has a full novel written. He brought his novel. I'm like, what? Like he's the next Stephen King, I swear. Anyways, we just talk about writing, and I learn a lot from people, and it's really cool. You know, it's a lot of great writers. You know, C.S. Lewis, where we get our name from, and J.R. Tolkien, where you know, would meet at a bar and share writing, and J.R.R. Tolkien hated Chronicles of Narnia, and you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff. And so I think writers need to collaborate, and so that's what we're trying to do. And I'm really honored that anyone would care enough to hear what I have to say. So it's been really fun.
Well, as an English teacher, I think it's really interesting that you're able to pull from your previous experience, your passions, and kind of create this really neat outlet. Because
Are you currently an English teacher?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you teach?
I teach English 9th, 10th, and 11th grade.
Oh my gosh. What is your required reading?
I'll have to get back to you on that one because there's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's so great that, and you joke about there not being a whole lot of attendance, but man, what a great intimate setting to get feedback where if you are in a high school classroom, you probably have 20, 30, 40 kids in a classroom where you're not going to get a whole lot of one-on-one attention.
And, I mean, probably half of them don't want to be there. Half of them are like, books, I don't read books, or, and so it's really cool because obviously everyone wants to be there, and it's just really, yeah, it's been really special. It is definitely a high point of my day every day, doing that and having these like connections, and then sometimes later I'll be on stage and I'll see them and I'm like, whoa, we know each other. So I kind of bare my soul a little bit during these workshops. I talk about all the ways I've screwed up as an artist, and I talk about the ways I've like squandered my time, and I talk about like my writer's block, my fear, my inner critic, and I talk about my fear even when I write about social justice and the critiques I'll get and the mean things I see, and we just talk a lot about that. One of the only questions they had for me after like we did all of our talking today was, what do you do when everyone like kind of hates you? And I was like, oh, well, on this website you can read about people hating me, and it just explained to them like it's gonna happen. Like anytime you stand up for anything, people are gonna hate you. Jesse from Stick to Your Guns is right over there, and he talks about bigotry and homophobia every day, and I guarantee you so many people are like, oh, that guy thinks he says social justice for it. But that happens, anytime you make a stand, somebody's going to stand against it, and that's okay. People have a right to do that, and you just need to be confident in who you are. And I told her, I think the goal is to be less partisan and more focused on who's actually affected, the actual story of the person affected. So instead of writing a song about homophobia, I'm going to write a song about like a gay kid who's kicked out of his house and has nowhere to sleep at night. Because I think when you see someone's pain, you can't contest the fact that that's real. You know what I mean? Even if politically you're on some side, people seeing a person's narrative draws us in. You know what I mean? So
I think it personalizes it. You're right. It's hard to say that doesn't exist when you hear about it and you can internalize it that way. So what's up for the rest of 2017? I feel like the past year has been so full.
A lot of touring. We're kind of in this place as a band where like we just say yes because we want to do it all. Actually, speaking once again of Stick to Your Guns, I don't think you can hear us, but we're going on tour in November and December with Stick to Your Guns and Being as an Ocean in Europe. We're also doing an American tour, but we can't announce it until after this. After Warped Tour concludes.
And in a week or two, you'll be at the APMAs for Best Underground Band.
Yeah, we won't win though, but we are. You
won't stop being so defeatist. Stop it.
No, I'm just serious. It's like if we win and Knocked Loose doesn't win, like I'm just gonna want to give them the award because like. Yeah, like I'm confident in our band, and we've been doing this for a long time, and I guess in that sense underground because we literally played basement pizza shops like 5 times in a row in Louisville. So like I get that, but at the same time like there's that band Knocked Loose is they're basically the definition of an underground music that's like shaking hardcore right now, and I think they'll win, and I hope they'll win. I think they should win because they are that band, you know what I mean? And just young dudes playing pissed off music. It's really good, really nice guys. Always giving like advocating for stuff like women in the hardcore scene, and I'm super stoked and to what they're doing. So it's funny when we got nominated because at first I was like, yeah, and we have a really awesome community of listeners. Like, we could probably win. I saw Knocked Loose and they're like a cultural movement. I'm like, oh, never mind, they're gonna win. Good for you guys, But being nominated by AP was really nice of them, and they've put us like in little articles, and that's really cool because we can never afford to like pay for those, and they do that and give us exposure, and I really appreciate that. So.
Well, either way, keep shaking up the scene. Stay tuned for much more from Silent Planet. This is Jackie, thanks to Chorus FM and One Avenue.